Want to get him over? Hi, Chris. All right, all good? All right. Okay, Paul. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to The View for this evening's Fans Forum on the eve of the new Sky Bet League One season. Thank you all for coming. It's a bit of a different venue for us in here. It's rather nice, I think. And it's kind of appropriate, isn't it? Because what we'll do is give a bit of an overview of how things sit at the football club at the moment. So as usual with these sorts of events, we'll go through a few questions that have been sent in by fans, and also there will be an opportunity for you guys in the room to ask some things as well. I know you'll know them, but let me introduce the panel. So just to the left of me, Paul Byrne, Argyle CEO, Chairman and owner Simon Hallett, and Director of Football Derek Adams will be answering your questions as we go. We're going to begin with, do things in a little bit of a topic by topic. So we're going to start with some questions around about investment, finances, that sort of thing. We'll probably go on to talk about recruitment. We'll have a conversation about the women's team. There will be certain things that we've had plenty of questions on that we'll deal with. So what we'll do is we'll ask a couple that have come in, and then on that topic we'll go to the room. So please ask a question that's related to what we're talking about, and then we'll move on, if you get my drift. Ali is around somewhere with a microphone, so we'll point out where that will be when we do those questions. If we could ask questions to be reasonably succinct, one per person, and keep it on something that clearly the general fan base will be interested in rather than a particular nuance that you want to ask. But I'm sure you all know that. We'll kick off with the question that is often the big one on these sorts of things. So Simon, I'll start with you. The broad question is, what is the latest as far as investment goes?
Well, I'm sorry that that's the big question because you can't get a big answer. We are in continuing talks, but the rules of the game are such that we can't disclose anything about who the people involved are, what the nature of the talks is. We're subject to non-disclosure agreements. So talks are ongoing. We're quite hopeful that they'll conclude in the next few weeks, but can't make any promises. But I will just say that the need for investment continues. So it's being treated obviously as a matter of some urgency, but I'm afraid I can't really say anything else.
An aligned question to that, Paul, which came up as a big thing in the last Fans Forum, is how are the finances in terms of year by year? Are we likely to be anywhere near break even or anything like that in the 26-27 year?
So no, we won't get anywhere near break even. I mean, we'll make some improvements. So in the year to June 26, we'll expect the club to lose about 11.5 million. The accounts are closed now, so they're still to be audited, so that'll get verified in the audit process. But the losses for the year will be around 11.5 million. And so it's unrealistic for us to expect that we'll get back to a zero position in 1 year. So, I mean, obviously we're kind of doing everything that we can to try and close as much of that gap as possible. But I'd still expect us this year to be losing multiple £1 million.
But it's an ongoing process,
Absolutely,
isn't it? It's going to chip away at it.
Yeah.
This is probably for you as well. Given financial constraints and the ongoing Falston Park project, is expansion of Home Park anything that's going to be a priority in the foreseeable future? Would this change if and when there were new investors on board?
So let me talk about Falston Park first. I mean, Falston Park's not too far away now. I mean, if anybody's been down there in the last few months, they'll see that it's really taking shape. I've spent the day there myself today, actually, and it's good to look out and see the academy building's nearly finished. The community pitches are open. The dome has been open about a month now, and the academy have been using that a lot. So it's really good to see the whole site taking shape. It was a little bit slow at the beginning of the year because, as hard as it is to imagine, we actually had quite a lot of rain in the first part of the year. So if anybody remembers rain as a thing. That was, it has delayed things a little bit. So we probably won't get some of the pitches at the start of the season exactly. It will probably be late September till a couple of the other pitches come on board. and then the final pitches might go into the first part of 2027. Mm-hmm. So, but bit by bit it's coming online, and we're already starting to use it now, so that's in good shape, even though it's been a little bit delayed and the development has been slightly challenging. I think from a financial perspective, it's probably worth saying that, you know, the project has been is difficult as well, and in addition to the £11.5 million that we've lost last year, Fulston Park is going to be about £6 million over budget as far as the whole development goes. So in addition as well, so that's something that we're trying to manage and make sure we continue to get the right thing, but manage the finances as best we can. So the whole project will cost around £23 million now, of which it's a joint development with the club and the trust and the council predominantly. There's other stakeholders involved, Albion Rugby and the athletics club down there, to name but two. And the trust will be shouldering a part of that cost. The city council is shouldering part of the cost, but the majority of that is shouldered by the club. So the club investment in the site was anticipated to be about 11.5 million and is now more like 18, something like that, 17, 18. So that's a big challenge for us to deal with. So just moving on kind of more widely for investment in infrastructure. I mean, one of the things that when we're talking to investors, and we've talked to a lot of people, and people come and visit and they see the site, one of the things that's exciting to them about Argyle is that the infrastructure is really good, and there are opportunities to develop. I mean, I know we would expect a question about filling in the corners at a fans forum, but you know, that is one of the opportunities. So I think definitely one of the things that new investors would look to do is say, look, the opportunity for Argyle is to really develop the infrastructure, and what we've got already is really great. So building on that foundation is definitely part of the plan. So I think it reinforces that, you know, we need new investment to move on. I think Simon's been pretty clear about that, and you know, one of the things that does excite potential investors is the opportunities to develop the infrastructure across both of our sites.
Okay. I think it's probably a good time to see if there's any questions related to these sorts of topics in the room. Bear in mind, we will go on to things such as, you know, recruitment and transfer money and stuff like that, but if anyone has any questions directly related to what Simon and Paul have just said as regards investment finances, I'm not seeing loads of hands at the moment, but we've got one at the front here, sir. Do you want to come down over here?
Thank you. Good evening. I'd just like to ask, actually, you talk about filling in the corners. Is that going to be a viable option in moving forward? I mean, it seems to me like the ground, we're maxed out already, and short of increasing prices everywhere, whether it be corporate or indeed tickets. Just filling in the corners doesn't seem to me to be like an option that will get you investors in that say, you know, we really want to invest in this, and that there's an output from it that will increase the value.
We're not going to fill in the corners in the immediate future. I think the point that Paul was trying to make was that when we get new investment in, they can see that although we've made very considerable investments in infrastructure over the last few years, enhancing the appeal of the club, both to fans, to employees and to players, that there's more to be done, but it will require new investment before we even look at filling in the corners. The initial work that we've done, and we've not properly costed it, suggests that if some reconfiguration of the Mayflower, filling in the corners, doing something with our offices, could get capacity at Home Park up to around 22,000.
22, yeah.
Yeah. So for new investors, that's, you know, how much would that cost and what would the payoff be? And that's something that they're interested in. But not under current conditions, no.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on this sort of topic? Gentleman over here at the front.
Good evening, gents. It's always been the position of the club that the money that's invested in Fulston Park would not have been invested in the playing budget. With the additional cost of that, and that the club is going to have to bear, will that have any impact on the playing budget now? Will you take some off the playing budget because there's more to spend on Fulston Park, and how is that going to be covered?
The position is unchanged. Fulston Park is funded basically by me and by Jane and by initially by the other shareholders, by Argyle Green, when we had the initial rights issue. That was funded by all shareholders, but since then the excess has been funded by me. And that is money that I would not have made available for playing budget, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any more on this? We'll take one more over there on this, and then we'll move on to talk about some transfers and stuff.
Good evening, gents. In terms of Folkestone Park with preference of use, obviously we want to make it financially viable and bringing in money as well for the club. Are we going to be allowing it to be purposely used for all of our academy, as in boys and girls first, before we look at renting out to other people?
So, because it's a joint development, I mean, we're committed and we're grateful for the cooperation of the council and the trust. So some of the facilities, they actually need to be used for community use, and we're committed to that. Strangely enough, I've been in a scheduling meeting today, and I've had the academy and the trust and the women's team there today to talk about how we schedule. And there's no real, I mean, there's a little bit of a challenge in the short term as some of the pitches come online, but especially because they operate at different times. We don't really think that's going to be a problem. There's space enough for all of them to operate well. So, and the community use is already happening, especially for people who've been down there. The top pitch is already pretty much used every evening between 5 to 10 and all day at weekends. And things like Albion are training on there and that kind of thing. So it's actually it's a really great facility. Like I say, it's challenging financially, but the facility is really, really great and should be able to accommodate everybody without that being a problem.
Yeah, the purpose of the development was to do something for the community, but that kind of came, that was the way of getting the council's participation. The purpose was never for it to be a revenue generator in terms of current income. I mean, in the long run, we hope it'll generate revenue as young kids come through the academy and, into the first team, and then we move them on. But we were never intending to generate revenues of any significance through rental income.
Okay. We'll move it on to something which is allied to finances very much, and it's also been quite a talking topic of pre-season. We had a lot of questions in about this, and I'll read it pretty much as I have it down as how people tended to say it. Essentially, where has the Laurent Talai money gone, was some of the wordings. That's what it says on my sheet. The headline would say that he was sold for this, and that we have replaced him with something like this. That is not necessarily true. We know how things are, but it's a good opportunity for Simon, Derek, whoever, to respond on why is it true that there is a perceived disparity between what we've received and what we've shelled out?
So, I mean, the first thing I'll say is, look, we can't disclose the confidential details of any particular transfer. I think that, numbers that get reported as headline numbers are not the same as what you receive for two fundamental reasons. The first is that if a transfer fee is X, not all of that money comes in to the bank on day one. Often they're phased over different periods. So just because you sell a player for, let's say, £1 million, it doesn't mean that £1 million lands in your bank that day. You might get $500,000 this year and $500,000 next year. So that's the first thing why it's different. The second is that even if you bring money in, you do have some costs. So you may have a sell-on fee to clubs that you bought players from. You've got agents' fees. You've got some other things that get paid out. So the first thing to say is, look, just because you read a headline on the internet doesn't necessarily mean that there's cash sat in our bank, I think. I think the thing is that selling Laurent Talai has enabled us to reinvest in the squad quite quickly. I would point to 3 particular examples. It's enabled us to retain Michael Baidoo through into this season. It enabled us very quickly to go out and to bring back Alex Mitchell as a permanent signing. And we were able to quite quickly bring a centre forward in Will Evans, who is proven at League One level, and make sure that we started the season with a full complement of squad, which has been pretty good. So I think from that perspective, the headlines are not always the same as what is reality, but I think we were able to reinvest in the squad fairly quickly and fairly reasonably, I think.
Yeah. The thing that I'd add is that when you acquire a player on a X-year contract, a multi-year contract, you're committing to spend money on him. So the money that comes in from the sale of one player is not necessarily matched by transfer fees out for replacement players, because when you get that replacement player, you're committing to pay him his wages for 2 to 4 years. So there's a liability attached to every player that comes in. So you can't just assume that if we sell a player for X that we're going to spend X. The other thing I'd say is that the club, as Paul said, lost £11.5 million last year. It's important that we stop losing money, and part of the financial strategy at the club for a number of years has been to try to buy players that are young, that we can develop, and that we can sell on as a profit. We will continue to have operating losses, and it's important that we cover those operating losses not by relying on shareholders, but by relying on our ability to develop players and move them on at substantial profits. So the Tolai example, where's the money gone? Well, the money's sitting in HSBC, but it's committed with 3 new players and in covering losses that are otherwise going to have to be borne by shareholders.
Derek, I'll bring you in on something here. There's a question that we had from several people that wrote in, is why haven't we used the loan market more in the summer transfer window? I think we brought in 7 players in the summer, 5 permanently and 2 that we had on loan last season in Wes Harding and Alex Mitchell. But previously, we've had seasons where we were in League One with Morgan Whittaker, Finn Azaz, Barley Mumba, and those previous players I mentioned last year on loan that were successful. Why haven't we gone down that route a little bit more? I know there's still time, but why haven't we done that?
Yeah, we haven't done it so far, and we can still do that come January. But the football club's seasons gone by felt that they've taken in players on loan, and then they lost them in the January transfer window, and they felt that was not good for them at that moment in time. We've taken in players that we believe will be here with us for years and years and are able to build the squad, going forward. So we've got 25 signed players this season. Last season, we had over the whole season 34 players, either in loan or out in loan. So we've reduced the squad, but we feel that we've added to it in quality, and I think that's been important. But we still can use the loan market, but at this moment in time, a player will have to move out before a player moves in for us to do that.
The other thing about loans is that they're great at filling gaps where you can't acquire players on longer contracts. The trouble with loans is that they remain assets of the loaning club. And so if we do a good job, they play well, they increase in value. But that value doesn't accrue to us, it accrues to the lending club. So, our preference overall is that we'd rather have our own players than other people's. But the loan market, as Derek says, is still there for us to fill any gaps that may be around at the end of the transfer window.
Okay, let's head to the floor if anyone has any questions that are related to this sort of thing, so recruitment, in and out, etc. Does anyone want to ask anything of the panel on this? Don't have to. It feels like an auction now that I'm going once. But I've got one over here. Ali, just in the corner. Nice retro shirt, sir, if I may say. This is me trying to fill a gap while the microphone gets to you. There we go.
Hello.
I have to put some music on. Go ahead.
This isn't 2 questions, it's a 2-parter.
Okay.
So the first one's for Derek, and it would be, how often would you say we lose a player from signing for Argyle down to geographical location? And the second one, or the second part of it for Simon, as some clubs have spoken about, particularly in the American system, do you think for Plymouth Argyle to become a fully fledged championship club, we would have to move a permanent training base away from Plymouth?
Okay, we'll start with Derek. So geographically, it's always a challenge.
It's a challenge for anybody, but I think that when I've been previously here and here again, I think that the attraction is this is a one-city football club, and we come here, they see the stadium, they see the way of living on a daily basis, and they enjoy it. So I don't think we miss out on many players. I think that players want to come here and better themselves. We're a League One team at this moment in time with the aspiration of playing in the Championship again, and I think that's what young players want to come and do. And we have signed a number of players in that bracket that feel that this is a beneficial place for them. So I don't think we lose out on many. No.
And Simon, the second part of that was
Yeah.
talking about an American model, moving a training base possibly.
So because it was a two-part question and not two questions, I assume that you mean move the training base somewhere more central to where, on average, players live. It's something we literally never even occurred to me. I'm not even sure that that's the American model, is it?
Well, I heard Newcastle sort of discussed it. Or about Newcastle. I know that they do training bases in America away from the states where they play.
I didn't realise that. I honestly didn't know. It's not something we've even discussed. I mean, I think we believe quite strongly that having people together is important for cultural reasons, and we like players who buy into the culture here as much as we like permanent staff who buy into the culture. So I think having people in and around the city is a good thing, and it's good for fans. I mean, I can't believe that the players would like to be training away. Sorry, I'm thinking as I go now. Something that surprised me, I'm not sure if you said it, Derek, or Tom, but the players do like to train away from the stadium, and then match day becomes very special. So one of the things that we've talked about is, perhaps building a training centre over at Harper's, or maybe one day adding first team facilities to Fulston, because then match day becomes special. Whereas at the moment they get changed in the same changing rooms as they do on match day. They walk over to Harper's and then they stroll back for lunch or something. So having them separate sounds like a interesting idea, something that players would like, but having it way away from the club is something that we've not talked about, but my initial reaction is that I don't think I'd like that.
We wouldn't want it somewhere up country like Ivybridge or Tavistock or anything like that.
Well, I wouldn't want to go too far. I was thinking more about the empty airport at Derriford.
There you go. Any more on this particular topic from anyone? Ali, this over here.
You thanks for the restraining
Hello. I want to ask you a question on goalkeeping, actually. Is there a separate recruitment team for goalkeepers?
There's not a separate recruitment team. The goalkeeping coach, Mike, is heavily involved in that. But we look at goalkeepers and how we build the team, and we've obviously changed 2 goalkeepers in the transfer window, and we've probably changed the profile in the goalkeeper as well. And that's to really benefit, how we're going to play this season. And the head coach, the goalkeeping coach, his staff are all focused on that. And you'll have seen with Cooper and with Storer that they're good young goalkeepers, slightly different in ways, and that can benefit and going forward. But there is an emphasis from the goalkeeping coach what he would like in a goalkeeper, but it's really driven by the head coach and the way he wants to play his style of game.
Okay, hopefully that answers that one. Let's take one more if anyone's got one on this side of things, and then we'll move on to the next topic. No hands going up. Okay, well, let's move on then. The final one of the little preordained topics, as it were, because we knew that questions were going to come up, and we had plenty come in on it. Paul, do the club regret the handling of the women's team over the summer?
Yeah, of course. Let me talk about why we did things and what actually happened so that people understand. Firstly, there was never any intention to try and upset anybody. In fact, try to do quite the opposite, which I realised wasn't what happened. So let me put some context around it first. So, clearly the club losing 11.5 million, we've got to change some things. That's really very challenging. And as part of that, the women's club lost around £500,000 last year. So we had some income. Income was about £200,000, but the costs of running the club were about £700,000. So the net cost to the club was about £500,000. That is more than double what we expected it to be for the year. And I think when I sat at Fans Forum probably around 12 months ago and we talked about it, we said it was about 200,000, which was kind of manageable for us. So the first thing is that the finances of the club as a whole are difficult. The finances from a women's perspective became very difficult. And the third thing is that it was going to become increasingly difficult for the women to progress in the league system. So two fundamental things into this season. Last season, we got into the playoffs and narrowly missed out on getting promotion to the WSL2. In this season, there's one automatic spot and no playoff place. And in addition to that, the Women's FA Board had voted for allowing development teams to play at our level, which was going to make it harder to...
The WSL development teams.
WSL development teams to play in our league, which was going to make it difficult to develop and compete at this level. So it made the environment very, very difficult. So we decided that we had to have a change of approach. Now, that change of approach meant that we really decided we've still got a women's team, we're still going to play at the same level that we had, but we just needed to roll back on some of the investment in the way that we've gone about it. So that was the decision that we made. So, I mean, talking about exactly what happened and how it happened, I mean, Marie did a really great job here last year, and she decided that, you know, if our ambition is not going to match hers, then she wanted to go elsewhere, and she goes with our blessing. She did a really fantastic job, so that was you know, she decided she wanted to go. So, of course, completely understandable. She's a great coach, and you know, she's got ambition, so that's completely right. I spoke to Marie after she decided that she was going to go, and Marie said to me, well, I'm serving my notice out. She was still with us until the 30th of June, I think it was. So she said, I've got 6 weeks to work. What do you want me to do while I'm in that 6-week period? I said, look, I'm not going to make work up for you to do. You've worked really hard through the season. I'd like you to do 2 things, please. The first is that, can you hand over some handover notes to Matt, who was the assistant coach, so that we can keep in place the great work that you've done. You know, Marie'd done a lot really to make the way that the women's team would work in really good. So, you know, to maintain some of that was important. And the second thing I said was, could you speak to the players to let them know that we're not going to be renewing their contracts? And she was really great about it, very professional. She said, yes, of course, I'll do that. And I'll do that today and tomorrow. So that was exactly what we agreed. And then Marie did speak to the players. So she spoke to the players on the Friday night, Saturday morning, and I kind of asked at the club what normally happens when a player gets released, you know, end of contract. And I was told, well, they speak with the coach and that's it. And so I thought, well, I will try and do something a little bit more than that. And so I'll just write a note to them to thank them for their efforts, really. So it was an effort to do something more than was normal. That was the idea, you know. I thought it was right for Marie to speak to them. You know, she was their coach and she was their line manager. I thought it was right for Marie to speak to the players. But for me to send them a note just to thank them from a club perspective. So I waited until Saturday lunchtime when I got a text to say that Marie had spoken to the players, and then the note went out. I rewrote that note 3 times. I didn't want it to come across as false. I didn't want to say, look, how amazing it had all been, but unfortunately we're not renewing your contract. But I was very astutely aware that this was going to be very disappointing news for the players involved. So that's, and like, obviously, then, you know, things played out very differently, and of course, I'm very sorry about that. And there's things that we might have done a bit differently, but that's kind of how it played out. And of course, the intention was not to upset anybody at all. In fact, it was the opposite. Somebody at the club actually said to me, well, if you want to write a note, that would be a little bit more of a humane thing to do than is normally done for the men's game. But I realised that, you know, there were things that we could have done a bit different there.
I suspect there may be follow-ups on this from the room, but there's one more that I've got here, which is to do with the composition of the squad. We pretty much said when statements went out around about that time that we were going to focus on local players and develop those, but we have signed several players from further afield. What's the circumstance there?
Yeah, so I mean, we were always going to need some players who've got experience so we can compete at level. You know, we're still expecting. I mean, Matt has been working really hard to get players in and to make sure that the team are ready, because we're still in the same division we were last year and we're still expecting to compete there. We always knew that we would need some experience to bolster the focus on local and young players. So if we've got a squad of 18 to 20 players, there will be 6 or 7 who we want to make sure have got some of that experience in the division, and therefore we can make sure that they help develop the players around them. So it was never going to be an all or nothing situation. Mm-hmm. We were just scaling back from having a full squad of players who were from further afield.
Sure thing. Okay, does anyone have any follow-ups specifically on the women's team situation? After that, I've got questions that come from all different areas of topics around the football club. I'm sure you guys will as well, but while we're on this topic, does anyone want to ask a follow-up of what Paul's just said? No? Yeah, gentleman in the centre here. I always feel bad pointing, but I've got to. It feels a bit rude that I'm doing that, but I'm gesturing, not pointing.
I've seen worse today, so
Thank
don't
you.
worry about
Okay,
it.
that's good.
Can you say roughly how much we earned from ticket sales in terms of, was it what we expected it would be? Because women's game was growing massively, and it still is in many ways. But did we see the return that we probably would expected or planned for?
So no, that was probably one of the areas that was a bit disappointing. So ticket sales in total were £20,000 for the whole season. So that was a bit of a challenge. I've got to say, I looked at a lot of information on the women's team, on the women's game overall, and I think some of it is growing in some areas, but a lot of teams in WSL. That's everyone.
Is everyone getting that, are they? Should we have a look at our emergency alerts? Okay.
Some emergency, I don't
It's
know.
news of this fan forum is spreading like wildfire, if that's not an insensitive thing to say. I don't mean that as a joke, by the way.
It's going in my hearing aids, it's a nightmare.
This is a new one, isn't it, for the
It is,
fans
yeah,
forum?
absolutely.
Haven't had this before. Let me just check the scrubland behind the building, just to ensure we're in no danger.
From the government.
Okay, we'll let that dial down a bit.
We're getting bombed.
We'll soon find out.
There we go. That was a bit different. I think there's a scene in Sherlock where that happens and everyone gets the same message at the same time. But right, let's move on.
Been sold.
Derek, here's one for you. A question came in earlier in the week. A question came in, are the club still planning on taking part in the Premier League Cup? Well, since then we have not only announced it, but in fact our first game kicks off in, I think, about 13 minutes' time because it's been slightly delayed. Talk to us a little bit about the Premier League Cup, what that entails, why we've entered that.
Yeah, we've entered it because at this moment in time, we've only got an under-18 team and we've got a first team. And we're trying to bridge the gap between the under-18s and the first team to give exposure to the players that are in between that bracket. So we've got probably 4 or 5 players that we feel that haven't had enough game time in the first team. Can they get more game time in the under-21s? It hasn't really worked that way tonight because it's played on a Friday night rather than a Monday or a Tuesday. If it was played on a Monday or Tuesday, then a number of the players who would have been on the bench tomorrow would have been able to play on the game on Monday. But the benefit of it is that we're playing competitive under-21 football. And we did this a number of seasons ago when I was here as manager. And, you know, what we did, we produced players. We produced Cooper, we produced Jeffcott, we produced Randall. We had, you know, a number of players, Alex Fletcher, and it enabled them to play against teams that were slightly better than they're playing at under-18 football. So we're bridging the gap between the under-18s and the first team. They've got 6 fixtures so far, and hopefully they can progress from there through the group. If not, then it's 6 fixtures that have been beneficial for them in their pathway into the first team.
And when we play the home fixtures of those, we're playing them here at home park, so good exposure there as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's great that we're doing that, and, you know, from the pricing point of view, season ticket holders are getting in for free, which is great. And the reason for that is to generate a crowd and atmosphere to help these youngsters get ready for first team football as well.
There was a similar question that came in from a supporter that said that Tom Cleverley recently mentioned that there's a problem between, you know, bridging that gap, as you've been saying. With Folkestone Park nearing completion, what plans are made in general to help our academy prospects build that gap? So obviously the Premier League Cup is part of it, but what else are we doing to try and help those sort of 18, 19-year-olds?
Yeah, I mean, you know, financially it is very difficult because you have to then build an under-21 team, and that comes at a cost. And have you got enough players in this area that are going to develop into first-team players? At this moment in time, we don't have enough players, so we have to then bridge the gap. And what we're doing is bridging the gap at this moment in time with 4 or 5 players that we feel that could have the potential of moving to the first team.
Okay, good stuff. Let's go to the floor again for questions. We don't have to stick on topic now. If you've got a general of anything that you want to ask of of the panel here. We'll start with the gentleman at the front here.
I've been supporting Argyle for 66 years, and I have never booed or asked for a manager to be removed. So, Simon and the rest of the board, I want to thank you for not listening to all the boo boys last year and the ones who called out for TC to be removed, and where's all the money gone? So, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Our pleasure.
I didn't call them supporters because supporters, true supporters, would never boo a team. So I'll say to all them people, there will be bad times this season. Get behind the team, don't boo. Now, White on Monday had a good chance to score, but he used power more than accuracy. And I find it frustrating watching a team play when we don't hit the target when we should. So if I was a coach, I would drill into the team, apart from keeping a clean sheet, make sure you hit the target. If you don't hit the target, you don't score. Derek, if you was our manager again, what would be your top coaching to the team?
I think that, I've always felt when, you're at Argyle, you want to see a certain style of play, and that means that you want to, see entertainment. And I think that last season, in the second half of the season, you had seen a head coach that found a style of play that suited his players, it suited the football club, it suited the league, and that was, attacking the opposition. It was a high press. It was pressing the opposition into making a mistake and then being able to quite quickly translate that into a goal-scoring opportunity. And they are working all the time on hitting the target. They have targets in games before the game. They want to see how many shots in goal they can get, how many of them are going to be in target. And I think that they've improved, over time. And you can see that from the second half of the season.
Okay, good stuff. Bob.
Going back to the Premier League club, will there be an opportunity to use overage players?
Yeah, we can use 3 overage players, over 21, and we can use a goalkeeper as well. So it is an opportunity for us to do that. You'll probably see that more in the games that are played on a Monday and a Tuesday rather than a Friday or a Saturday. And the opportunity to play, some of the players that are coming back from injury as well, to help the younger players. When I was growing up, it was a reserve team football, and a lot of the advice that I got was from the senior players playing with me in the game, and that doesn't happen nowadays. We play under 18 football, under 21 football, and then we go into the first team. But most of your learning can come from senior players being on the pitch. And say it was Joe Edwards who's coming back from injury, it could be Caleb Watts, them helping the younger players in the team to benefit the others. And, when I played at Aberdeen, I played with a Dutch player that, taught me how to sit off the game and then go and pounce onto things. So the learning is there from the senior players, and that's what, will happen, in future weeks. It is hugely beneficial. We don't have a reserve league, and the reason we don't play in the reserve league is the distance to travel is a lot, and we don't have enough players to do that at this moment in time, and these 6 games will help us in that way.
Let's see if anyone else has a question from the room then. We're right at the back, and we've given some good walking steps into Ali Cliff today. He hasn't a half marathon this season. Oh, he's done a marathon actually, so he is capable.
Good evening. Derek, there was many years ago, we used to play in the Southwestern League, which basically was from likes of sort of Bristol down or that sort of area. Couldn't we do that with our under-18s and players coming back from injury or something like that in a competitive environment, which would give them a weekly basis to build on and everything like that sort of thing? Like I say, we used to have it years ago. I can remember well, when I was running linesman and all that, running the line and having an Argyle team playing St Austell, playing St Blaise, playing Truro when they was in the South Western League, and everything like that. And it done the team well, actually.
Yeah, I mean, that was a time when I was here as manager. I entered us into the Peninsula League, it was called. And what it allowed us, we had 9 development players at that moment in time. And the Coopers, the Randos, the Jeff Cotts, the Alex Fletchers, etc., all played in that league, along with the players that weren't in the 18 travelling to away games or playing at home, and it was beneficial. But after I left, they pulled them out of that league for whatever reason. It wasn't beneficial for the local teams at times because we were using it to our advantage. We were playing a lot of first-team players at times, or we were playing a lot of young players. So it was good. We were playing 30-odd games a season. I don't think we would be allowed to get back into it now. I think that has passed.
Okay, I'm going to do a few more. I've got 5 or 6 left on here that I can ask that have come in. We'll try and get to them all. Paul, we'll start with you on this one first. There was a couple of general questions about Evergreen. Can you give us an overall view of where we are with Evergreen now? One or two of the challenges that we've had on that over the last few weeks?
Yeah, sure. So the Evergreen, we've had 3 or 4 years with the Evergreen as it's been, and it's been really good in a lot of ways. But I think we've had a lot of feedback from fans that the thing that is really valuable to them is the loyalty and the points and the availability for tickets. So we've tried to simplify it to make it that people can really get the benefits that they want rather than having to buy a whole package. Also, it makes it a bit easier for us as a club to administrate. So I know some of the communications have gone out a couple of times as we try to make it as clear as possible to people. But it's an effort to try and simplify and really focus on what fans are telling us are the things that they really want out of a loyalty scheme.
And that includes the new reward credits as well?
Yeah, so the reward credits, we were going to launch that on at the game tomorrow. We've just delayed that until the Coventry game, just to make sure we've got everything spot on with it, rather than just rushing over the last 5 yards of the race. But again, it's a way that everybody can, show the loyalty to Argyle, and we can repay that. So it's a way, it's a loyalty card really that you can use in kiosks at the shop, as well as the ticketing benefits.
And ask another one that I've got here, then I'll come into the room and ask for another opportunity. But this could be for Paul, Derek, I'm not sure who wants to answer it. I'm surprised it's not come up, to be honest. Has there been any interest in Bim Peppel? There's been rumours all the way through the summer about other teams might be interested. There's been rumours about release clauses, all those kind of things. What can you say about the interest, about the circumstances? I don't know how much we can say. But.
Yeah, there's always interest in our players. I think that we've performed well as a team, and that is something that we pride ourselves on. But at this moment in time, we haven't had any offers that would benefit the football club. And I think that when there's interest, there's interest. When somebody puts a bid in and then we have to look at it, we're not at that stage yet.
And I guess you're not just talking specifically about BIM, you're talking about all of the players, aren't you? It applies to them all.
Of course, and I think that is important. We want to have players that are performing well for us on a Saturday, and if we can get that and they do well, then other clubs will look at them. And that's certainly the model that they're trying to work on.
For what it's worth, I looked at this quite carefully last year when there were a whole bunch of rumours going around, and I spent a few weeks looking at various websites and so on, and I reckon that about 80% of what you read online has no truth whatsoever. I mean, none whatsoever.
75% of all statistics are made up, of course.
But 75% of all statistics are made up. And of the remaining 20, about half have, a glimmer of truth. So, maybe Derek got a phone call from somebody inquiring about Bim Peppel. This did not happen, I'm just making that as an example. And that was the last we heard of it. But that could have ended up reported that Club X are interested in Bim Peppel. So there's a glimmer of truth, but nothing. There's much more noise than actual activity going on, I'm afraid to say. So enjoy it, but don't believe it.
But it is fair to say that we've had interest,
Yeah.
you know, in some of our players,
Yeah.
and the reason for that, they have done well, and that's
Yeah.
something that we can pride ourselves on.
Okay, anyone else in the room want to ask a question? Bear in mind we've got about 15 minutes left, but this is an opportunity with three gentlemen to my left that you don't get all that often. So, yeah, we've got one over here, Ali. I think you're all doing this deliberately to wait until he's the furthest point away, and quite frankly, I like that.
Yeah, me too.
Evening, gentlemen. It's probably one for Derek, one for Simon. Same question. Obviously, it's been rumoured that Derek is on a limited contract with us. And I think most of us would agree that since Derek's been in, some of the players we've recruited has been unbelievable. And the rumours of Curtis, getting Alex Mitchell, that sort of thing. Is there any truth that Derek's only with us for a short time? And if he is there an option for him to stay?
Well,
That's it.
I'll let Simon deal with the transfers and how that happens. So I mean, like Derek, I'm not going to embarrass Derek to talk about his situation here. That's for him and I to discuss. But I mean, what I will say is we're thrilled to bits that Derek's been here for the last 12 months as part of the team. You know, obviously it's great to have him around the football club, and it's worked really well. So, I mean, I'm not going to embarrass him by going into certain details of what we're doing. But you know, we're really pleased with Derek being here.
Yeah, I just exactly. We're going to save his blushes and not discuss his contract in public. But like Paul, it's been great having him back. It's worked really well, and it was quite risky. I mean, it could have been difficult with relationship with Tom. So I've been thrilled that the relationship between Tom and Derek is very, very strong, very positive. I think fair to say they challenge each other, which I always like. I mean, I hate yes men. I like people who disagree.
Agreed. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
We're thinking about going public. So all that has worked out brilliantly. When it comes to recruitment, though, Derek does a lot of work. We've been really good about our recruitment because we have a committee. We have a recruitment committee of 5 people. We have some people with more experience than others, some people with more football experience, some people with more financial experience. But I think Derek and Paul would both agree that what's been success has not been any individual. It's been the processes and the way that people on that committee have worked together. So, it's been fantastic having Derek around, but he's not the sole focus of the way we go about recruiting. It requires Paul, it requires Derek, it requires Tom, it requires Matt Girdler, our head of football data, and it's required David Fox as well. So it's really been a great team effort. That's really, in a way, what's more thrilling than the success of any individual, if you don't mind me saying so.
I'm going to follow that up, if I may, because I didn't know that. So that's those 5 names you've mentioned. That's a 5-person committee that meets regularly.
We meet twice a week.
Okay.
And that's how it works. And we've been discussing, and we've been meeting since June, twice a week. I mean, we obviously talked about things before that, but broadly, football goes quiet for a month after the beginning of May, after the season stops, and then there's playoffs to play, so things don't really happen. So we talked about some things before, but I think since June we've met twice a week, and those 5 people have been in a room, and we've talked about, the way that Tom has wanted to play the team, and therefore how we make the right decisions, both for players leaving the club and coming in.
It's interesting. Let's do one more from the floor before I go to the last couple that I've got on here. If anyone wants to. We've been quite shy tonight. Is it the heat? Is that what it is? It's just...
There's a gentleman in the front.
Okay. We'll go one more from over here, and then I'll get through the ones I've got on my iPad.
Are you looking at strengthening the squad, or are you pleased with what you got?
At this moment in time, we've got 25 players in the first team squad, and we are on the budget at this moment in time. So if we were to take someone else in, it would be at a limited cost, but we have to get it right, and we don't want to panic. We feel that if somebody is not playing with us, then they have an opportunity to go somewhere else, then we'll look at strengthening the squad in a position that we feel we require at this moment in time. It is a difficult market, And I feel that we've signed 7 players in the window, and 6 of them were in the starting team last week. You count, that's quite a lot, and that shows you that the head coach has been happy with the recruitment that's gone in the summer. So he has got 25 players to choose from at this moment in time, and he's happy with that.
Okay, I'm going to do the ones, we've got about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to do the ones that are on here.
Sorry, I've got to say I'm smiling because hearing Derek say that the head coach is happy with 25 players. I think when Derek was the manager here, he had 14 players to choose from. And I always remember that my brother-in-law John and I went on the board in late April 2016. And then a few weeks later, we played on a Sunday in the League Two playoff final. And to our horror, on Tuesday, we had 2 players under contract. So let's just remember where we've come from.
Fair enough. Paul, one for you. Is overseas streaming of live Argyle matches a significant income source?
Yeah, it's still a significant income. We get around 1,000 people who stream the matches. So yeah, it's still very much part of the revenue streams for the club.
Okay, on to something for Derek. Why did we fail to get a visa for Michael Beidou, who is a Ghanaian national, to enter Spain for the training camp, which has set entry and exit dates? Why didn't we get that sorted is a question that's coming.
That was an administration error. Also, Michael was responsible as well. It was his own visa that he needed to get done, but it was an error that the football club take responsible for, and we have to look to do better in future times.
Okay, and something that's kind of aligned to that, because there was Derek, because obviously Michael's injured, which is a shame, and Tom mentioned that he'd not been part of that Spanish trip. Another question that's come in, which we heard about last season as well, is it does feel like there's still a lot of injuries around the squad. Michael's was a headline one, but every week what Tom has to do his presser, he always has to mention about different injuries. So did a review take place? I know John Lucas has come into the building for that, but is there an ongoing review? Are we still a bit concerned that there's a few too many injuries?
Yeah, I mean, there is an ongoing review. The review has not finished yet. It's a process that we're taking place at this moment in time. There's a lot of aspects that we have to look at, and we have to get it right. As you say, the head coach requires to have fully fit players. He wants to have 25 to choose from. He doesn't have that at this moment in time, and the individuals or the team have to provide him with that. And so we're looking at the reasons why that still continues to be an ongoing concern.
I think it's worth saying as well that in every recruitment committee we've had, this has been much part of our recruitment approach. We want players who we can expect to play a significant number of games a season, because that's what will make us successful and makes the best use of the budget. So, we've recruited players with an eye that they will play significant games for us.
Okay. Paul, can you confirm that we've withdrawn stewards from club coaches on away travel? Do you think that fans can travel with confidence? Could you clear up what that situation may be?
Sure. So we've always had club stewards on away travel. We've actually put some extra external stewarding on in recent times to try and bolster some of that. But because we've not had problems on the club travel, we don't really feel like we need that extra support. So there will still be club stewards on the coaches. That's never changed really and won't change. But we've not got that extra layer of external support because we feel like the travelling has been okay. I mean, everybody should feel safe. I mean, I want the whole environment to be a welcoming environment, and people should feel safe and secure, but enjoy their day out and enjoy when they come to home park. So we've tried to make it that way.
Okay, I have one more left on here. Once I've done that, I'll see if there's any remaining in the room, and then we'll look to wrap up. But it's a fairly decent one to end on from here, really, probably for Simon and for Paul. If we were to go up to the Championship, I know we've not started the season yet, but we can have nice, lofty aims, can't we? If we were to go up this season, do we have the financial credentials to stay there? Should we go up?
Everything's probabilistic. We had 2 seasons in the Championship, and we came close to, we stayed up one season and we came close to staying up the next season. in the years prior to that, we quite significantly outperformed budgets.
I think that's your bank manager.
My bank manager. Certainly an emergency alert. It's
not yours.
Not me. So, you know, I think if we could improve our processes, improve the environment around the head coach, around the playing squad, I think we've got a reasonable chance of staying up. We actually thought that without extra investment in the playing budget, that over a 5-year period we had, if I remember, a 50-50 chance of staying up. We obviously failed to stay up in the second of those 2 years. If we could add, let's say, 5 million or so per year to the playing budget, we think that that would give us a significant chance of being in the top half. So my answer is yes, but we've got to get better at recruiting. We've got to get better at keeping the players that we've paid a lot of money for fit. I think those are the two areas that we need to improve in order to have a realistic chance of staying in the Championship. But there will always be a reasonable probability, by which I'm going to say, you know, 10 to 20%, the team gets relegated. I mean, that's both the horror and the beauty of the English Football League, I'm afraid.
But I think it reinforces as well the need for investment.
Yeah. But, you know, if we really, really want to challenge in the top half of the Championship, which is our goal, then we're going to need new investment. And obviously that's what we're working towards at the moment.
And I think the other thing is worth saying is that, you know, the regulators come into force in the last 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, hopefully that will make the equation a bit easier as well over time.
Yeah, there's a kind of more general point. My feeling is that there's a resistance by owners to continue to finance significant losses that are driven by spiraling costs. We all know what the biggest cost in a football club is, and those costs have increased, you know, over 50% over the last 3 years. And, you know, nobody holds a gun to an owner's head and says, you've got to finance these losses. They all do it voluntarily. But I think owners have demonstrated that it's very, very difficult under the pressures that you're under day to day, week by week, not to fall prey to the desire to buy that next player and have losses continue. So I think if owners can't come together with the English Football League to change the rules, it will require agreement with the PFA. But if we can't come to some agreement that enables costs to be controlled, we're not going to get the money that we're all trying to get from the Premier League. It will, as Paul says, be left to the independent football regulator to impose controls on us. You know, I think it's almost inevitable that we'll end up that way. But I'm hopeful that there will be some restraint in this transfer window, but certainly not been terribly evident so far.
Okay, I reckon we've got time for one more question, probably. We can maybe get to two if we're sharpish, but if anyone else has a question. Okay, we'll go with this one.
With the Championship, up to 8 teams now could be in the playoffs or automatic. That's not happened in League 1 or League 2.
Yeah.
Was that close to happening? Was that discussed?
It was voted at the EFL conference in April that I attended. There was a vote and it was only over the Championship. It was never a discussion about League 1, League 2. I mean, let's see how it goes, but you could expect that it might come down the divisions.
There's certainly movement amongst ownership for it to be expanded to Leagues 1 and 2, that there be an 8-team playoff. For what it's worth, am I allowed to say how we voted?
Probably.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll find out tomorrow.
Yeah.
There were, of the 72 clubs in the English Football League, 70 voted in favour of expanding the playoffs, 2 voted against. One I think was Tranmere and the other was us. And I was amazed that so few clubs voted against expanding the playoffs at a time when there are spiralling wage costs. In the Championship, if you expected to finish somewhere between, I don't know, 16th and 8th with the budget that you had, you're now going to increase that budget
Well, and the January transfer window, the
or spend
temptation.
it, it's very inflationary of costs, and so without means of controlling costs, I think expanding the playoffs would be great fun. It would raise revenues, but those revenues would immediately get eaten up. So I'm not convinced that it's a great way of going. It'd be highly entertaining. I enjoy the NBA playoffs. I enjoy the baseball playoffs in the United States. They're great fun, but I don't think that they'd be good for the game in the absence of cost controls.
Just on that, would it not be more appealing to investors if you get 8, you could still go up, whereas you had to be in the top 6 before?
But I think it's both sides of that equation because the cost may spiral to get there. Yeah. Yeah. So there's a bit of give and take in that equation, I think.
And don't forget, if you've got 8, how many rounds is that? There's 3 rounds. So if you toss a coin 3 times, you've got a 1 in 8 chance. It's pretty hard to spend money on a 1 in 8 coin toss.
Also, if you think you're going to finish 3rd, then you probably think it's less attractive.
Yeah.
Because it lets 2 more people to have a chance at it. It's a double-edged sword, definitely.
Okay, I think we're going to call it there. We've run pretty well to time, which is nicely done. Never mind. That's my bell to tell me that it's exactly an hour is what that is. I promise you, the government are helping me time out this evening. It's not an actual alert. Thank you to everyone who's here for coming. It is a beautiful evening here. I hope you can enjoy the rest of your evening. We'd love to see you all tomorrow as well. Obviously a big game against Stockport, which we're all looking forward to. And thank you to our panel, to Paul Burnt, Simon Hallett, Derek Adams. We really appreciate your time answering all those questions. And thank you to everyone watching along at home, everyone who sent questions, everyone who asked questions in the room. Thank you very much. We'll see you again very soon.
Thank you.